Well, as you know, we did a major review of all of Network Rail's infrastructure projects last year. What we call our control period 5 settlement, so a 5-year period of work was and is vast amount of work. We will still be doing all of that work, but some of the schemes have been slowed down so we can spend the right amount of time on them. We've had about 2 years into the programme for the Bath area. So the middle of 2019, we should see steel work and wires up, ready for testing and ready for the new electric trains. The good news, though, is because the trains have diesel motors as well, the new stock will be arriving at the back end of next year running through Bath. So passengers will see improvements next year with new trains and more seats.
So in 2019, that's going to be the year you actually deal with Sydney Gardens, is it, as an historic site? I mean, I've been running images already illustrating a possible pylon that might be used through the length of the gardens. How close is that to what will happen? And am I right in saying 2019 is when the wires and the pylons go up there?
Right, so 2019 will be when we're coming towards the end of the programme and commissioning the brand new system. This year, 2016, is really a year for completing our design work, making sure we get all of the consents applied, and then we've got about 2 years worth of build through 2017 and 2018 throughout the whole area. As you might imagine, we've got lots of different kinds of work to do. We have, as you saw last year, we've lowered the track through Box Tunnel. This year we lowered the track through Keynsham Station. We've still got a few more sites of that to do next year, most notably at Bath Spa Station. We've also got to raise parapets on some existing bridges. There's about 30 of those where we need to keep people away from the overhead line power. And then we've got to also install the foundations, the mast and the steelwork and the wires and commission all of that. So that starts at the beginning of next year in earnest. We will be doing some trial foundations this year and working very hard with Bath and North East Somerset Council and Historic England and other stakeholders to make sure that what we are going to be putting in is fit for purpose and enhances places like Sydney Gardens and the area of outstanding natural beauty around Keynsham. As you've already said, the images you've got of Sydney Gardens are pretty accurate. They're the same sort of images we've used in our drop-ins at the Bath Guildhall and those that we've discussed with Baines and also with Historic England.
Just to make it absolutely clear then, when will we see work starting in Sydney Gardens?
So we're hoping to get the designs complete in the summer of this year. We'll be then sending a package for all of the works in Sydney Gardens for listed building consent, which we should get granted at the back end of this year, and then we'll get our contractors on site at the beginning of next year to start doing the connections into the high retaining wall and some of the other features that we're doing in Sydney Gardens. What we're aiming to do with two of the more notable structures, namely the iron footbridge and the stone overbridge, is to remove the iron bridge, grit blast it and paint it so it's fit for another 100 years or so, and then add an unobtrusive glass screen around the bottom of it to keep people away from the 25,000 volt overhead line system. The stone overbridge is a more complex structure, so we need to be able to keep people away from the overhead lines, but also keep the look of the bridge a bit more, so you can still see the bridge from various angles and also from on top of the bridge. So we have a glass screening approach for that one, the details of which we're just working through with Bath Council and Historic England now. So we're quite confident we've got a really good solution that all of our stakeholders buy into for Sydney Gardens.
There was talk of a moat being dug along the edge of the track where we've got that rickety wooden fencing at the moment. Is that still going to happen?
We've slightly modified our approach to what we do with, I think the last time we spoke we called it a ha-ha. The idea was that we would reduce the level of the ground as it got towards that low balustrade wall in front of the Theatre of Railway. Unfortunately, that would interfere with some of the tree roots. So we've got a number of important trees, not to mention or not only the giant redwood that's near that location. I think it would have damaged the tree roots. So what we've decided to do is introduce a theme of iron railings. So there are some existing iron railings in Sydney Gardens, and this is our preferred choice for a reversible and minimally intrusive approach. So we'll see some iron railings going up at Sydney Gardens to keep people away from the overhead line and to enhance the look of the area.
You mentioned work to be done at Bar Spa Station next year. I'm told that will also involve widening the platforms. Is that so?
Yes, that's right. So Easter next year, we're planning another temporary period of disruption, another T-pod, so we can get that work done. One of the things we've got to grapple with is how do we introduce this new overhead line equipment without harm to the existing historic fabric of the city. Bar Spa Station is a good example of this, where at the moment we have our listed canopies, which unfortunately are foul of the overhead line system. So when the new trains come in with their pantographs up, there will be electrified parts of those pantographs and also the wires that are too close to the new canopy. So one choice that we are doing in a number of other places is cutting the canopies back. What we've agreed with Bath Council is a better solution here, is to widen the platforms by about 1 metre and 1.5 metres. That means that we don't have to touch the canopies, so they remain intact, but it also gives GWR a bit more flexibility over platform space as well. So at certain times, perhaps rugby match days and other days, the station is extremely full, so having a bit more platform space would be really helpful.
You'll have to move the lines.
That's right. Yeah. So part of the plan will be to what we call slew the line. So pick up the track, move it 1 metre, 1.5 metres into the centre of the rail area, and then we'll add some new coping stones and a new frontage to the platform over the period of closure that will give us that extra width.
Brunel had to be very careful with the bends coming into the station from the London end. How will that be affected by moving the track? Will trains have to slow down even more coming into Bath?
No, they won't. So the line speed through Bath will remain the same, but it does just give an indication of some of the slightly complex engineering we have to do, where we've got to make sure that the overhead line system is in the right place for a reliable delivery of current, and that has to make sure that it's also in the right place for the track, and also doesn't obscure any signals we've got. We've got a number of signals at platform ends of Bar Spa, so we need to make sure we've got a really good three-dimensional model, a BIM model of the station that incorporates the track location, the location of the foundations in the brick arches that are underneath the station, and also the overhead line and the signals. So once we've got all those coordinates right, we can then start the detailed planning of actually how we're going to do the work and deliver it.
I can see why it's such a lengthy operation. No idea yet how long the disruption might be next year to people using Bath Spa Station.
Well, we've got a plan, a bit like T-Pod 2 this year, where we did the work around Keynsham Station. We'd like to do it in and around the half-term break. So we're looking at something like 14 days between the half-term. So that's where GW have got the lowest ridership of passengers, and therefore it's least disruptive to the overall use of the railway.
It is a massive operation. I mean, we're hearing a lot about the Orange Army. It's quite a job they're undertaking, isn't it?
It's a huge job, and I think the most difficult part of it is because we generally work at weekends or at night or over a 9 or 10 or 12 day closure of the railway. We have to create teams very quickly. We have to train them very quickly and get them used to working together, deploy them very quickly to get the work done. So it's not as if we've got a kind of regular Monday to Friday piece of work. The windows of opportunity we've got are quite short. So generally, to do work in this area, we've probably got one Saturday evening of 6 hours to do work. There are passenger trains and freight trains running all of the other time. And then once every 6 weeks, we'll probably get 5 or 6 hours midweek, Monday to Friday, where we can work as well. So making sure that we can design our work so that it's delivered in 6-hour chunks, or indeed a kind of big closure of 9 or 14 days, is absolutely critical to that long-term plan that we've got. And we do appreciate people's patience with us. I know it's over a number of years, and that people will get disrupted fairly regularly over those years, but I think the arrival of new trains that have got more seats and are more reliable will be a really good way of saying thank you to people for their patience.